Hello again, City Talks music listeners. How is your week going? This is Saba from the City McWiggles project, your host for this show. Thanks for stopping by to hear this silly encore. In other words, the second part of my interview with Australian indie artist Bella Deer. She is an up-and-coming muso from Geelong in Victoria. Bella Deer is her current project, which got my attention, and especially her song Care Too Much. It made it to the final of a pretty prestigious songwriting competition. It also has a beautiful video shot in places on the Great Ocean Road, which are very close to my heart. They bring back good memories from my times in Australia. She'll reveal more about that clip in our chat. But I want to go back to the first part of the interview called the Silly Talk for just a moment. We left things off on a pretty serious note there. Bella shared her rather bitter thoughts on how she sees the music industry in Australia from her emerging muso's perspective. But I don't want you to get the impression that she's disappointed with the industry and is ready to call it quits. On the contrary, it was just a genuine observation of somebody who's trying to find their way in the industry. And that is also why I want you to learn more about Bella's musical context from this episode, so you'll get where she's coming from. We'll be chatting about the artist's background, her pretty cool gig at a community radio when she was younger, her band, and what she calls the touring bug. There is also a hilarious story about the first ever song she wrote. And nope, it's not a breakup or love anthem. So, if you're ready for a new listening session, why don't we let Bella introduce herself?
All right, well, my name is Isabella and I perform as Bella Deer, and I have been under this moniker for just over a year and a bit, and I have been playing music for, I guess, around 10 years or so, and I just wanted a fresh start with my new release and my new sort of sound and direction. I have worked in like creative roles in the past, but I work in education, like as the day job, and I really love it. But sometimes there's a bit of a clash, I suppose, with the two worlds and feeling like two different people, which I'm sure a lot of people do. Like, I don't know many people that don't have two jobs for being a muso and, you know, having something else that they do. And I take my hats off to the people that are doing it full time because they're working very, very hard. I play piano as my first instrument, and I started singing when I was about 14 or so. And I just started songwriting. I learned classical piano, and I started songwriting around the age of probably when my first major pet passed away. I was so upset. And so I wrote this song about my rabbit that was more like a dog, and that was my first ever song. And I just remember not wanting to play my classical music pieces. I would rather go off the beaten track of, I would change what I was playing, and my teacher was never very happy with me. They were like, "You're not playing the music." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I don't like it. I want to do this." And they're like, "You can't." I was like, "Why? Who said? Like, it's written there, but I can play it differently." Yeah. So I used to annoy a lot of piano teachers and clashed with them really. You know, I learned the basics, and I just kept playing music, I suppose, ever since I finished school. So I've always done study, and I've gone, you know, the academic route with, you know, other stuff, but I've always gone, I want to be playing music at the same time. I need to be performing music. I love playing live music. That's my bread and butter, as some people are more in the studio, and I kind of like a bit of both. And in the last 1 year, I would say I'm a wannabe co-director slash. I'm not a filmmaker. I couldn't call myself that, but I'm a wannabe filmmaker, and admire people in the film industry. I just made my last music video with a friend, and I did study media at university, but I never used it. So I've always been like, I felt like a bit of a fraud. a fraudster. So just diving into and diving into getting back on what I've been using DaVinci Resolve and editing film. I just loved it so much, which I did at uni. I just never put it in real practice. So I've absolutely loved doing that, trying to juggle the day job, trying to juggle the music and create a music video. That was what I did last year. So every spare moment was meetings on set, meetings and editing. So we finally got that done. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I like to do multiple things, and am I doing any of them well? Maybe, but at least I'm having fun. I don't know. So yeah.
Okay, you've just answered all my questions. Bye. That's it for the chat. No, but okay, so what I take away from what you just said, so you have been a kind of like a rebel since your like early years. I love that story about how you wanted to play things differently on the piano, because like you said, who said it has to be done that way? But I want to know whether that rabbit song exists somewhere, or like have you actually performed it, or it's just like on paper and or like in your head?
I remember, I think the piano teacher I had at that time may have helped me notate it a little bit. So I feel like there's a piece of paper somewhere at my parents' house with that song written. Is it recorded somewhere? I'm not sure. But it definitely is on a piece of paper somewhere. I can probably remember the main melody, but I wouldn't want to try right now. It's something like, my heart is broken, but I must go on. Yeah, something like that.
But that is so cute because no, people normally write songs like when they like after a breakup with like a person or something. But I mean, I understand the emotion as well and the feeling when your pet dies, if you love the pet so much.
Yeah.
That's an interesting start. I don't think many people can say that, to be honest, that they started.
Well, I'd love to know if someone did write their first song as a pet song. Yeah, let me know. That would be a great bonding experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, listeners, how about we actually make that a challenge? If you know of any muso whose first song was about an animal, let me know, and I'll put you in touch with Bella to set up a pet requiem club, okay? Because any songwriting experience is better than none, right? But on a more serious note now, Bella has also been doing some other things in the music industry, in a department completely different from just being a muso. So in this next part of our conversation, she'll tell you about that pretty cool gig.
When I was a teenager, I did like a music mentoring program through Freezer. It was called The Push back then. And we went for a camp away, and we were talking one night about what else you can do in the music industry. And Sarah DeBore, who was head of the program at the time, suggested that I go and speak to the station manager at my local radio, community radio. And I said, oh, what's that? Like, I hadn't even heard of this community radio thing. She just recommended it. So I don't even know how I did this back then. Even with my first part-time job, I just would ring places up or just go in person and ask for a job. And that's just how badly I wanted something. So I remember going into the station. I was like, how can I get involved here? I'm here. I'm ready. I'm studying media. Do you need anyone? And they were like, yeah, come and volunteer in the office. And I was like, okay. And I got to know the front receptionist, and then I'd learn how to do all their emails. And then like there was a music course that used to be there, so all the musos were hanging around in there. And then they were like, do you want to do the radio broadcasting course? And I said, sure. So I did the course. I think it was like Cert 3 in broadcasting or something, or media. And then all of a sudden I had a show with a couple other young people my age, and we would rotate. And we ended up calling the show Reckless Radio, and we played Aussie music. And I used to interview, I used to get so flustered and so nervous. Like, I'd interviewed Josh Pyke one day.
Wow.
I interviewed Pig from Parkway Drive one day. I was like, what?
Wow, that is so cool.
I know, and I have to dig up the interview for that because I'd love to hear it again, but I think it might be on an old hard drive somewhere. And like just all different bands that were kind of big at the time, and I just loved talking and hearing what these successful musicians, what they were up to, and I always just loved that they were just normal people wanting to have a chat. And I used to get free tickets to shows, so that I just frothed that. I was like, yes, so I get to go see the Jezebels live in Geelong.
Wow.
And then I'd review the show on the show. That's kind of that was my community radio experience. And I ended up, becoming a media teacher and telling kids to go and do it, go and get involved. And a few people went and did that. So I felt like I was teaching the next generation of kids about community radio. And that's kind of what my bread and butter was for media side of things. So yeah, that's why I felt a bit of a fraud in film. But I just love talking and I love music, so you put them together.
What a cool story. And why did you leave it then? I mean, I would have stayed if I got like free tickets to shows and like I could interview Josh Pyke or Parkway Drive, and I would be like, now this is a job for me.
To be honest with you, I was very, very close on going to Sydney, and I was going to apply for the radio course up there. I think it's called Afters or something like that. It's like it's a pretty well-known course. And at the time I was going to go to Swinburne University. They had a radio course, and everything got cut with funding that year that I had wanted to do things. And so it was kind of the crossroads moment where arts wasn't being funded much, and courses were being decommissioned. And I just thought, I don't really think I should do that. Like this, if it's not in Melbourne, I'm going to have to move to Sydney. And I was only like 18, 19 at the time. I can't even remember. So yeah, that's why I didn't really go. I did end up working for my commercial radio station here in Geelong. So I did all the mostly promotions I did. But again, then I kind of went and did more further study at uni, so in a different area. So it's just, I guess, cross paths and crossroads and that type of thing. So I would like to go back to it one day, but I think maybe it's a bit late now. I don't know.
What? Nah, it's never too late to do anything. I know it sounds like an old person trying to lecture a younger one, but hey, that's what they say. It's just probably a matter of calling up a few people and brushing up on those radio skills, Bella. And if you need a co-host for that revived radio show, I'm down for the gig. Wink, wink. But going back to the musician bit. I know that Bella Deer is not a one-woman orchestra project, so it's time to find out who else is in the band.
Who's in the band? Look, I've been playing with my partner for about 10 years or so, and he started off playing on guitar, and I'm a very heavy keyboard player, a bit of a hard hitter, and we found that the acoustic guitar clashed a lot with what I did on piano. And being the primary songwriter on piano, I was always dominating, and it wasn't good. So he kind of moved to bass. And, we've had lots of lineup changes in the past, worked with lots of different people, just, local people, friends, people come and go. And just with the release of Bloom, I had been talking to someone that said, you really need a drummer. And, I've had drummers in the past, and I was like, I know I need a drummer. They're just really hard to find, and it's really hard to find a good drummer. And so I just, again, went on the internet and found someone that was living locally and literally just down the street sort of thing. So Rael started playing with us in 2022. I can't even remember. It's been a while now. And then we've played a few gigs, and we realized we really do need a guitarist. Like, that's kind of what's missing now. Like, a three-piece is really great. I really do like playing as a three-piece, and it's much easier for gigs, to be honest. But again, I went on the internet, and I think he already knows this, but there was like this app for musos, and I was a bit sketchy, but I found someone that was living in the local area, and he had played this just a really nice ambient guitar loop, and I was like, that sounds like what I like. I need this guy to play with me. And I sent him some messages, and he probably didn't open the app for 3 months, and then finally I saw that he'd seen it, and I was like, oh, here's my chance. I'm like, hey man, here's my Insta, let me know if you want to jam, we're in the local area. And he was like, cool, yeah, sounds good, let's do a jam. And I was like, oh, he doesn't know that I've wanted to jam with him for 3 months. So I don't know, I think things just work out when they're meant to be, really, because Josh has been in the band for a couple months already, and he just fit in so perfectly. And so we're a nice little 4-piece now, and I'm really looking forward to some of the things that we might be able to play. I think any band who's been playing music for a long time, if something came up, we'd be able to prepare for it. But I am really looking forward to going that one step beyond and going beyond Melbourne and going beyond Geelong, because I've realized when you leave, people take you so much more seriously, and it's just like, it's actually blown my mind, because it does make you, it sounds really corny, but you feel like a real musician when you leave your home. And it's really, really nice feeling because people appreciate you. And not that you don't feel like that at home, but it's just because that's where your friends are and that's where your family is. And I've really enjoyed traveling in the past couple of months and playing in lots of different places. And I got the real bug for it now, if that's what you call it. So I am looking to be playing in Europe later this year and looking for opportunities. So it's just been on my bucket list forever. And if nothing comes out of it, that's fine. But it's just what I want to do. So we'll see what happens. Watch this space.
But who's kind of like, so do you actually work as a band, or is it just you and then they are your kind of musicians that go with you on tour, or do you create all together?
Look, I guess they're sort of, in a way, they feel like a support, but I don't necessarily dictate exactly what they are to play. Like, I like people to give their own sort of flavor to things. We work on structures together. Like, for example, at the moment, we're trying to pinpoint which 4 songs would work together, and just running through like, what's tempo going to be, what key are these ones in. So like, we work together, but I guess we're working on my songs. Sometimes Josh might have a part, or Simon might have a riff that he likes, but I guess essentially, yeah, it's my band. So I jokingly say to them, like, you guys should go play metal together and start another project. Like, honestly, they'd probably really enjoy that. But as most bands that have one main songwriter, it's usually that person pushing it. And I guess I am the instigator of everything, of the gigs and the recordings and everything. So I'm really grateful that they want to play with me. Really, it's nice to get to a point where people that have experience and have, you know, been on other people's tours and they've recorded for other people and they want to play with me, and I feel that's really lovely. Like, it's a nice feeling, and it's one of the best things I like about life is just playing music. It makes me feel like my life is good. So thanks guys for playing with me.
But also, can I just say, girl power, because you're like the front woman, you know, like, and it's actually your band. So
yeah, actually, in saying that, last year we played a show with a band. Well, actually, step back. One of my friends, Vin, had for his birthday party. He had a music festival at Mama Chen's in Footscray, and he had a few local Melbourne-based musos play, and Alison from Howlight got up, and I just, doesn't happen very often, but I was like, who is this? They sound amazing. And she had a backing track with like drums and stuff, and she was playing live guitar and singing, and I was like, oh my god, I'm fangirling so hard. This chick is sick. Like, I really love her stuff. And then I played my set, and at the end she kind of came up to me and she's like, that was so good, like, that was amazing. And I was like, oh really, because I thought you were amazing and I really wanted to talk to you. And so they asked us to play a gig in Thornbury in like I think it was like winter last year. And Alison and I just did a songwriting session a couple of weeks ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago. So it's just nice to have connections. And sometimes you think maybe they wouldn't want to write a song with me, but turns out they do. If you just ask, or you find out if they do want to hang out with you, they might say yes. So never be afraid to ask people if they want to do something creatively with you, because you don't know where it might go.
I love Bella's attitude, and I wish we all had more courage to just ask if we want to do rad things in life. Because if you never ask, you'll never know. And the worst thing that can happen is the person you're after will say no. And as frustrating and disappointing as it might sound, that's just life. Happens to me all the time. Last but not least, let's talk about how Bella ended up playing in Seoul in South Korea. I mean, when you're at the beginning of your music biz adventure, you probably want to scale up and out on your home turf first.
So you'd go from your hometown to the next one, expand to the whole state and maybe the country, and then you'd think about going overseas. But no, Bella seems to be doing things the other way around. She hasn't even headlined her own national tour in Oz, but she's already played on a different continent. You also want to know how that happened, right?
Oh, so funny. Well, I have been wanting to go to Korea for a long time, and not last time I went to Europe, but I went to Europe 10 years ago and met my friend Hojin, and he came to Australia in 2017 or so, and I showed him around, and he stayed with me, and he met my family, and we kind of have been saying for years, like, it would be great to come to Korea. And finally, I sort of jokingly said, maybe we'll come for Christmas. And he kind of just said, oh, really? Like, are you actually coming? And then I thought, oh, well, look, I've been saying it for so many years. Like, I may as well go now. So we kind of just decided at the last minute to go to Japan and then on to Korea. But there's a music festival in Brisbane that I go to when I can. It's called Big Sound Festival. It's a music conference, and a couple of years ago there was a group of people from Korea there was a festival in Korea for showcasing artists, and so I kind of investigated Korea a little bit as a music place, and I just started looking for venues in Seoul, and obviously I can't speak Korean. Would love to, but you can't do everything. Some people can. And I just sort of said to my friend, do you reckon we can book a gig? And he was like, I mean, no promises, but I'll try. And so he just booked me a gig. So it was a cool little jazz bar in Seoul, and it was lovely. And they're very kind. They even offered me tea for my voice, and so lovely. I think if you want to do something, if you've got any sort of contacts or any means of going, just give it a crack, because I really didn't know what it would be like. And there was a little crowd there, not heaps. It was nearly almost New Year's Eve. But one of the funniest things about the Seoul gig is I started clapping, and I didn't expect them to continue, but they clapped the beat through the entire song. I was like, they're very efficient. Like, it was just like they were on the beat. It was the whole song. Usually an audience, the clapping starts and it just goes away. Yeah. They went hard the whole song. I was like, this is epic. So that's how Soul came about.
And so look, I've checked your streaming platforms, and also I think I went on Triple J Unearthed, where you have very good reviews, to be honest. And congrats on that. But there are only 2 songs out at this stage, right? So there's Bloom and there's Care Too Much. So, yes. But you said that you guys are, with the band, with the boys, you're kind of going through which songs would go on an EP. So I can kind of sense that there is so much more music there that hasn't been released yet. So let's talk about how much there is and what your plans are. Because you also said to me in your email, lots happening in 2024. So I want to know what you've got.
Right. Okay. Well, we will be creating an EP this year. And I think I know that this happens to other musicians and songwriters, is that now that we've started workshopping the songs, I am feeling like they're not good enough. And there are I could count 10 songs that we could possibly record. And then when we do a demo of them just here at home, I listen back and go, I don't think that's good enough. I don't think that's as good enough as Care Too Much. I think, no, I'm going to have to write another one. So just this week, I've written a brand new one. And I'm like, this one is definitely above all of those 10. That one's going on the EP. And then it's like, oh, but that's taken a spot of the songs. So just having to workshop and really decide what's the flavor of this EP going to be. It's an exciting stage, but I find it very nerve-wracking. And of course, because now that I've done one video and produced it, we need to figure out what song are we going to do for another music video. And so David, my collaborator, he's like, so what song are we doing? And I'm like, dude, I need to do the music first, and then we'll do the visuals. So I'm just trying to keep everyone updated, and this is what's happening, and lots to juggle, but there will be an EP by the end of the year. That will be a guarantee.
So that's a wrap, ladies and gents. I hope you've enjoyed this chat with Bella dear. And remember when I said in the previous episode that my conversation with her felt a bit like the title of Taylor Swift's upcoming album, The Tortured Poets Department? I reckon you get my point now. Because being an independent muso is not a walk in the park. Not in Australia and not anywhere else in the world. It might sound like the obvious truth, but sometimes it's just good to say it out loud. So please do give Bella's music a listen and her socials a follow. It seems that 2024 is going to be a big year for her. I'll leave you the links to her platforms in the show notes. Also, thanks Bella for an honest and fun chat. I appreciate your time and insights, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for all your plans, big or small. Hopefully, we'll catch up in person in Europe, where I'm based, at some point. This, however, is not the end of the Girl Power season on the City Talks Music podcast. I've got one more interview to share with you next week. Also, I just want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that I am an independent creator like Bella and produce this show myself from A to Z with all its consequences. So it means everything to me, literally, when you like, follow, share, and even constructively criticize it. If you have any comments or advice or would like to pitch a collab or a guest for a future interview, reach out to me on my socials, please. I'm at Silly McWiggles everywhere. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll catch you next week.